Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the George Myers Show, where our purpose is to investigate, evaluate, and inform, bringing you the truth. Because as uncomfortable as it might be, the truth is the thing that's going to set you free. And we're going to start off today's show with a downtown businessman, Ken Brown. Ken is a Racine businessman as well as a member of the Citizens for Responsible Government. He's on the board for the Racine Taxpayers Association, and he also has a particular interest in the Republican Party, which is always kind of an interesting group to follow. And we have a little rumbling, Ken, in the Republican Party. Some upstart from Kenosha is challenging Van Wanggaard for the Republican candidacy in the 21st Senate District.
That's correct.
Now, isn't this the 21st, isn't that kind of Van's home turf? Wasn't that kind of reserved for Van? I mean, no other trespassers allowed? What's going on over there?
Well, it's not actually van parking only. It's actually open to others to run, although Van and many of his supporters would like it to be a no issue because they figure he's got a very safe district that he's going to be running in. That's about a 60% Republican delineated district now. As you might recall, before the 2010 remap, or that we actually did in 2012 after the census, most of Racine County was in one district, and that was the 21st, and Kenosha County was all in one district, and that was the 22nd, with the little play out on the far edge with part of Burlington was in Kenosha and
right.
a little bit. Well, they rejiggered that around, and now the city of Racine, the city of Kenosha, and Summers in between and Mount Pleasant in between are all one district, and that's solidly Democrat now. That's a 60% or more Democrat-only seat, and Bob Wirtz is going to hold that, or some Democrat forever and ever and ever. The new district is now about a 60% Republican district on the other side, and that is like a C-shaped district, George. It goes actually all the way from the Illinois border up to the Racine County line on the north. Starts at about 3 Mile all the way north, and then it starts about Highway 50 all the way south, and goes all the way out to Burlington, with the exception of Waterford.
Well, let me give you my
farm country.
My perspective of that. I might be wrong.
Sure.
I just want to make sure. What I saw before, it used to be Racine County versus Kenosha County.
Correct.
Now it seems to be more the city versus the rural.
Right, urban versus country, if you will.
Yeah, okay.
So, although Mount Pleasant you wouldn't necessarily consider country per se, but they grow a couple, they still grow a little corn there. So anyway, the guy with rather than just van, we have the guy with the minivan, the 4 kids, Jonathan Steitz. He's a lawyer, and now he's actually a business investor, businessman here in the state of Wisconsin, and he actually is the guy that ran against Bob Wirtz in the recall. So these guys both have bona fide credentials running in recalls. First of all, Van, of course, got recalled and lost to John Lehman, and that's why it's no longer his incumbent seat. And then you have Bob Wirtz, who many of us got together and helped to try to recall, and then Jonathan Wirtz ran against him and lost, but that was a pretty solidly Democratic district. And he put up a pretty good fight. So he actually thought about this for several months. He's decided he's going to get into it. Now, there's 3 reasons why this is going to be an interesting thing to watch. Van Wanggaard, despite the district that he was in, that was a 52% Democrat-leaning district before, took some very, very bold stands, at least from the conservatives' point of view. He supported Act 10. He supported the expansion of school vouchers into including the city of Racine, and now, of course, that's been expanded statewide as well. And then the third was on concealed carry. Here's where Jonathan Steitz and some of his supporters think that there's some room for Jonathan to come in from the right of Van.
Is he more of a Tea Party type of guy?
Well, I don't know if necessarily Tea Party, definitely conservative. Van was at every Tea Party that was held, and Jonathan was at pretty much every one that was held. So they're both pretty solid on that. When they were putting together Act 10, there was 19 Republican senators. There was Dale Schultz, who's the most liberal or most rhino of the Republicans. By the way, he's being challenged by Howard Markeling, who is very much to the right of Dale Schultz and will probably lose that seat in Richland Center. So the Republicans are going. The Republican state Senate is going to get more conservative, regardless of what happens here. So anyway, if you take Van out of those 19, he was probably the 15th most conservative. Dale Schultz being the least conservative at number 19. This Jonathan Steitz, who's going to be running, would come in at around number 8 or 9 by comparison. On Act 10, he would have jumped in, supported full-fledged right from the very beginning. Concealed carry, which is what we have. He's actually in favor of constitutional
Oh,
carry,
whoa.
which
Whoa,
means
radical.
you don't have to have a permit
Oh.
as long as you are not a felon and you are legally able to carry a gun in the state of Wisconsin, concealed or otherwise. So that was one of the things that Van was one of the last guys on, and he was a former police officer. He has every reason to logically think that that's a good route to go. But a lot of the real arch conservatives, NRA members, want it to be constitutional carry. You don't have to get permission from the government to carry your own weapon. And then thirdly is on the school vouchers. There was a little wiggling on that. Van wanted the caps put in place in this kind of gradual upgrade into how far we're going to go with the vouchers in the city of Racine and then later in the state. And we have now gotten to the point where we have this little micro thing. Jonathan's position, as I believe he'll make the case, is that he wouldn't have put those caps in. He would have said, let it go right from the beginning and let's expand this statewide as quickly as possible. And that's what I think we'll be looking at in the next couple of years.
Okay, well, and you're going to be bringing in both these candidates.
Yes.
I believe the Taxpayers Association normally does interviews of the candidate. The Taxpayers Association, I know as a member, never endorses anybody, but they will certainly vet them.
And we'll try to be fair to both of them. I've already invited them both. I'm waiting for an acceptance from each of them and to schedule a time. We'll do a show similar to this. In fact, if our cameraman, I need to ask him about having him coming over and doing that for us, and we'll get that to happen, and we'll get the voters to decide. This new district, by the way, I think Van had to be more careful in a previous district. He might get to be a whole lot more conservative in this much more conservative, safe district that is out there for us waiting to happen.
Okay, well that's fantastic.
So, no reservations were made for this seat. It's an open seat potentially because John Lehman's probably going to retire.
As long as you're a Republican.
As long as you're a Republican.
All right, very good. Well, we look forward to that. I think it's going to be very interesting. We're going to take a break here, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk to Dr. Ken Jorgen about a very interesting proposition he has for putting things on the ballot. This sounds pretty good. Be right back.